Now our internet people are with us. Okay, so in terms of your exam, to refresh the internet people and you people as well, internet people have a whole different exam. It's totally new. But I usually don't go over chapter 4 because it's more of a review of everything we've talked about. There are some field examples in there for a Kiewit site. If you want to see what a portable fire extinguisher station looks like, that kind of stuff. If you want to see what a job trailer is, where communication begins, is the actual title of the slide. And we've talked about communication on here already on the job site. Do I think it's important? Yeah. Do veterans think it's important? Yeah. Okay, so it's a big deal. So it's a review. A lot of that stuff is going to go in there. There's a lot of stuff about leadership that we've also already talked about in Chapter 4. But for you on the internet and in here, there won't be a lecture on the internet for Chapter 4 unless we get into a little bit of today, which there's a good chance. I'll start you if we do. If we don't, just fill out your review and you should follow right along. Now, when you're trying to lead, I showed you an example of a bad leader last time when I played Mr. Baldwin as the doc, okay, and he was being sued. But if you want to be a good leader, what do I got to do? Because true or false, a safety professional is a leader. True. True. And you lead by example, okay? Which is why I would say those who are putting their cell phones away in this class are awesome, and all my other classes. And the rest ain't, okay? So that's kind of what I'm talking about. If you're not putting your cell phone away, you just took this because it was an easy major and you thought you could get out easy, or you're going to blow off class with Dr. Nick and you don't really care what he says. I've seen all of it since I've been here. But in terms of leading, you lead by example. And I told you the story of one of our former students, or I think I already told this. Yeah, I did. But the guy on the platform and his boy, the boss's boy up on a platform we talked about. Was that a good example of leadership? He owned the company. No. Okay, so we got to know, and that's another reason I hit this chapter so hard and put so many examples in it, how to be a good leader if we're going to be successful in this field. General industry or construction doesn't matter, okay? That's why these two guys who wrote the book, one of them since passed away, but the guys who wrote the book put it in there because they said the people stuff should come first, not the standards. The standards you can learn, you can change. They're going to change numbers, they're going to amend them. You can learn all that stuff when you get in the company. What you can't learn is how to deal with the most difficult people on your job site. And they didn't teach me word one about that through my entire undergraduate degree. I had to learn that on the job, okay? And so you got to learn that here too. What makes a good leader? Give them a clear idea of what's wanted. All right, guys, remember the guy who was giving a toolbox talk? You got to wear your harnesses. Not wait, I got to go back to the truck and get my harness. Because if we wait, you got to go back and get your harness, what's happening to all the work? Not getting done. Okay? And even worse in that film, to pick on film because they put the film out there, he gets up and says, because you're going to start getting cited for it. Is that good leadership? No. Second is your safety and health. Dude, love his last line too from his first day orientation. Okay, I want you guys to do all your work. Get along real good. Don't give me a lot of paperwork to do. Don't give you a lot of paperwork to do. Your job, partially to do paperwork. You do walk-arounds, but you do paperwork too. So how much can I depend on you is a gamble. Make sense? Okay? You got to be a good leader. You got to walk the walk and talk the talk. Sense of urgency, and this is 100% the best safety pros that we produce come out here say this, as well as multiple speakers I had when I was in charge, and it was ASSE. They've all said the same thing. It's urgent that we all behave safely. It's my watch. The guy with the clicker outside the doors, remember we talking about him? Did he believe it was urgent? He believed it was so urgent with Motorola, a general industry company, not construction, that what he did was he stood outside and just clicked and didn't tell anybody on his own time when he could have been at home. I want to make sure everybody shows up, goes home. Some guys count cars, and I don't trust that. You know, count cars in the parking lot and see. The clicker is a much better idea and much more effective in terms of shift change. You know who left and when, usually because of something. You can check with the secretary, find out if they had to leave for an emergency or something like that, or if they were actually injured, which you were probably involved with, and they left because of that. Make sense? Okay? So it's urgent. It's my watch. You take ownership of the workforce. That's a big deal. Sense of what is right. Right's right and wrong's wrong. My boy should be able to go on any of these platforms and not be hassled by anybody. Is that right? Right is right and wrong is wrong. Your boy gets killed or hurt seriously, you gonna come to me and say, I thought you were gonna make everybody safe. You're fired. Fired him anyway. Did he really want to work there anyway, you think? Nah, but you don't quit the field over it. What you do is, what? Warm up that resume. There are more jobs out there, okay? And you've got to try to chase them. The one I was talking about today from Siemens, okay? A readiness to accept individual responsibility. In other words, the guys are saying it's my job to ensure that they all go home today. It's my watch. And a drawing on resources that others lack. In other words, that others lack. I know where to look for the proper standards and regulations, and this could be something you could say in an interview for an internship or a job. That's why I'm putting it up there. If they ask you a question you don't know, what do you know about lockout tagout? I don't know the standard number right off the top of my head, but I know where to look for that in the standards. And I understand that there are affected personnel, right, in terms of the job. And then there are those who actually make the repairs, which are usually maintenance, authorized personnel. Make sense? Okay? So in terms of that, you try to tell them that. And I'll be happy to get you that information. You call me a few days. Now, you might look bad. You might blow the interview. But if you're honest about it, and you tell them in the history of people getting jobs that I've come into contact with, I'm sure Dr. Jones has data on that too. But in terms of that, the ones that were truthful and shot them straight, look, I don't know what you're talking about. They either got the job because they were brave enough to say that, or they didn't get it because that other people didn't trust them, or for a myriad of other reasons. Make sense? Okay? So, know where to find it. That's kind of what our job is here. We're trying to teach you the difference between general industry and construction, for one thing. How do I apply it? Motivating people, true, false on your test is ongoing. It does not stop. When you take the job, day one, that's when it starts. It stops when you're not working there anymore. Make sense? And that's across the board, general industry or construction. I got to find out for your test what those people need or value, right? If they don't have kids, I showed you family, the good F word, okay? I showed you family, I showed you, do you have a dog, do you have a Harley? One guy who was the project manager had 2 baby girls right on his chest. He needed and valued them, can we agree? Yeah. So he never forgot, and he was exhibiting good leadership by having it right on his chest, okay? So, a good leader, and we've talked about this too, I'm going to beat the dead horse this time, is one who's willing to listen to everything, to every problem they have, even if it's not safety? Yes. You are father confessor, your mother confessor, you're whatever that they want to tell you, you got to listen to. And sometimes, I'll tell you this straight up, because I've caught guys, as my dad would say, 3 sheets to the wind, which is an old way of saying, you're still drunk. In terms of how they get on a construction site in Kentucky. They start talking to me and say, I said I'm going to go over here and pour a slab today and tell you exactly how it's going, but you're going home. That's what you're doing right now, because I can smell it, first of all, which means that I have probable cause. And I'm sure if I tested you, you would test positive for alcohol consumption, among other things, maybe, in the last 24 hours. What are you going to send me? And they get mad. And then we get back into what we were talking about last hour, the workplace shootings and all this other stuff, which can happen, but you got to have plans in place for that, okay? So you got to listen to everything that they say, and the more you listen, the more true or false, the more you have a chance at finding out what is hazardous in your workplace. True or false? True, okay? So that's what we're saying. Nothing more rewarding to see someone who was considered a lost cause, less than an average, blossom just because someone took the time to listen to them. Hey, these guys on the brick, these bricklayers, they're throwing bricks to each other, man. Across a scaffold, from one scaffold to another. They're throwing them bricks, and they got a guy catching them. They used to do that, I don't know if anybody's seen the footage, I'm a Titanic buff, but that's how they used to have a rivet catcher. As stupid as that job sounds, you heat up and forge the rivets. That's how they put her together. And you actually throw it, and the rivet catches like, come on! And he's got a little funnel, and he's supposed to be able to move it around. That's just stupid. But of course, we're talking 1913, 1915, when she was being built. I mean, that's the way the job was done. But he's coming and he's telling me we got some guy throwing bricks, this is one of them had to be, across scaffolds. Thanks for telling me that, man. I appreciate that. Am I all over that like ugly on ape, as my dad would say? You betcha, okay? Because you're not only exhibiting an unsafe practice, you are making it make other people think that is okay to do. So I'm going to stop that right now, and I might fire both crews. And if management's not behind me, what am I going to do? That's right. I'm going to find me another job. Okay? So, listen to them. Listen to their problems. Help them solve them if you can, if you're able to at all. And then you can hopefully get something good out of them. Who is the key person, I will ask you on the test, and this is usually what happens in the workforce as well. That's right. All over your test. He read it right off of there, man. The frontline supervisor is the most important person. We're getting into this little bit of review of war stories I brought in and some stuff that we talked about before. And it's chapter 4 is more the same. We'll talk about a little bit of it if we get to it. We're close. All that affects workers comes from that frontline supervisor. I don't care if it's general industry or construction. As soon as you turn around that corner, they can rip those safety glasses off their head. They can keep throwing bricks across scaffolds. They can take their fall protection off, something I've seen all the time. Okay? We didn't talk about it when the film was going on, but sometimes they'll turn around a corner and they make a monkey tail. What I mean by a monkey tail? I mean that worker takes his lanyard and unhooks it and hooks it to his belt, and it's looped around like that. So I do a 180 because I've seen that guy do it before, and I turn right back around and I see him doing that. Why do they call it a monkey tail? Because a monkey's tail curls up. There's no other reason than that. So if you get mad at me, send your letters to Dr. Bradshaw, and he'll say, don't call it a monkey tail anymore, even though they do in the real world. Don't call it a monkey tail anymore. But that's what they do, and I got to try to call them down. I may call them down once, but usually fall protection, that's how many strikes? One strike going home if you got a good company. Okay? And if you don't, then you're inviting risk. True? And you're accepting risk. Right? Everybody with me? Okay? No other person, to double down on that, has as much control over the workforce as that frontline supervisor. Don't let me mess you up on the test. That's the ones you got to win over, and we work on all the employees, but we work on them first. Okay? So the reason safety supervisor and frontline supervisor skills as a facilitator. How to talk to difficult people. So that's why I'm beating on this chapter so much. A person who assesses and directly communication with employees and completing projects of people is more critical in their expertise related to the work being performed. I don't know how to do pile driving. I have no idea. I've never driven a pile in my life. I have no idea how to set up a pier, which is sometimes where they do it, but they also do it straight in the ground, and they'll put buildings on top of piles. A lot of stuff about HVAC, I don't know. I could fill a book. Tons of books with all the stuff I don't know about what there is in construction. I have not, I know this may come as a shock, done every single job in construction. I've helped some guys put up some high rises. I've helped some guys put up job trailers. I've helped them pour concrete sidewalks, and I've helped them do electrical transforming stations. I mean, it kind of runs the gamut. Okay? But what you want to do, and I'll tell you one of the other keys, one other tool that I'll give you before we leave this chapter and this subject is, if you have not yet developed a rapport, if you've got that 60, 70-year-old guy, and they're out there working past retirement now, who you cannot, he's just working, the spiky, safety, freaky looking Nazi, I'm not going to listen to that dude telling me what to do. I've been doing this before you've been alive, boy, if I'd have done it for every time. Anytime, if I get one guy, I have not won him over. I'll go up and I'll ask him, what are you doing, man? That is cool, what you're doing. Teach me what you're doing. Do they like to talk about their jobs? In the beginning of this chapter, right around the first few slides, it said, everyone, no, it's the last chapter, chapter 2. Everyone believes that they are special, that they can do something well. True or false? That's true. These guys, historically, go ask, if you don't believe me, go call one of our alumni who's working out there right now. And if you go ask them about their job, say, how do you run this pile driver? I don't know anything about them. Sometimes I do it even when I do know a little bit about them. How do you weld? Okay? And sometimes I'm doing that to do a spot check because it's welders, and I'm a welder, and I know how crazy we are, and I call it the preacher's daughter syndrome. We know what the rules are, and we break them in terms of how to do it. But I'll ask them that to see how safe they're performing. But you want to get their confidence. You want to get some respect, some street cred when you get on the site, in the factory, wherever it is you're going to be hired. Asking them how they're doing their job is one of the best ways to do that. And all of our alumni will tell you that. Because they love to talk about and educate the young, stupid, uneducated person on how to do that job properly. That has gotten me in the good graces of more of guys who are older, taller, and bigger than me and could whip my ass than I could possibly tell you. Okay, and that is another tool that you can use, okay, in terms of doing that. But the frontline supervisors implement that, and so they facilitate it. So working with them, especially if they're difficult people, either in general industry or construction, is absolutely critical to your success as a safety pro. Make sense? Everybody with me? We good? Okay. So, a lot of stuff we talked about. Takes time. You're not going to do it in a day. Okay? And he's got a good example in the book, which I'll buzz through here in just a minute. If you can't afford that much time to change an individual's behavior, you may have to reassign them or suggest that they reassign them to management, but do it carefully, because some others can say, well, if I screw this job up, I can actually get moved to a better job, something that's easier, right? I hate to tell a story on myself, but my wife would always love it. You know what I learned when my wife and I got married and we finally moved in together, is that you never do a woman's laundry. Ever. No. Yeah, because I threw all her bras in the dryer one day. What's that like, females? What happens to bras when you do that? They shrink, right? And I thought, man, oh, she's mad. I'll buy you all new ones. I didn't know you had to hang, dry the. I've been drying towels and jeans and guy stuff. I don't know anything about that. And she said, okay, you're going to buy me all of them. You're going to buy me all the ones that I want from Victoria's. Fine. I'm in trouble. But then again, you have to look at it, because she said, what she said. From now on, you don't touch any more laundry. That man knows. Right there. Right? And I said, I guess I'm not going to be able to do any laundry anymore. Hey, wait a minute. I guess I'm not going to be able to do any laundry anymore. That's awesome. Yeah, but let me tell you something. She can bleach your jeans and your shirt just like that, too, just because she wants to, because she has total control over whether or not you look like an idiot when you go to work. You understand? So there's the flip side to it on the other side. But in terms of when you make a change to the supervisor or a manager to put an employee in a different position, some can view it as favoritism or an easy way, or a way of getting an easier job and getting out of doing a bad job. Make sense? Okay? So you got to suggest that to management and be very careful about how you do it. Okay? Go ahead.
So how would that be like listed on the test? Like if that was a question?
It would be something like, well, let's see, this one here, I would say true or false, you should suggest, and I'm not sure if it's true or false, honestly, on that one or not, because it's real life stuff I'm talking about, and I sometimes forget. I would say true or false, assigning an employee to a different job is the best approach. Okay? Do it carefully is what you do. It's one approach. It's not the best approach. Make sense? Okay? But it's something that you can use to actually get, let's say, from the workplace. That's why I say. And give them feedback. Man, you suck. You didn't tie off. Man, you suck. You didn't tie off. Why do you think we get called safety Nazis in the first place? Have we got a bunch of write-up people who are really happy to write up everything, and then they get fired and we get hired and everybody thinks what? You do the same thing. I heard one student come in and talk to me. He was trying to get advice, was interested in the major, and said, somebody told me to come get safety, and I talked to my dad about it, and he said, don't be in safety. Safety is the person that everybody hates. Everybody hates. Where does your dad work? And what's the safety culture like there? Would be my questions for your dad. Okay? Yeah, it's true. I'm not going to tell you it's not true. I've been sitting here telling you it's true since we started on day one. What I'll tell you is, I hate you, but my wife loves you. Remember that line from the film? I want to change that. I want the ability to change that. I want to be given the freedom to change that from management. Make sense? If you ain't, you chose the wrong company. That's what I can tell you. Everybody with me? Okay? So you got to give them positive feedback. And when I'm talking about this guy's tied off, you look at that guy up there. He's tied off awesome. This new guy walking around with me, he didn't have time to make first day's orientation. It happened a million times. And he's got to be on the job today because of shorthand. They can be working on this wall over here. You see up there, that guy up there, John, see up there. He's tied off awesome. I want you to go look at what he's doing. He's going to lead you through this process and how we do wall building in here. I don't have enough time. I know you're a bricklayer. You got the skills. But in terms of safety culture, he's one of the best ones we got to do that. Did I just empower that employee? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Does it make my job easier or harder? Easier. I'm not trying to tear you down. I'm not. I will write you up in a heartbeat if you're reverse alarm doesn't work, if you're not wearing your harness, I'll probably send you home. I will do these things. But that's not what I live for. What I live for is building bridges. No pun intended, not tearing them down. Okay? And I build bridges, even in this job. Since day one, I've been trying to build bridges. And that has paid off in spades. And I mean in cards, okay? Not in shovels. So it looked like there's a big confusion with shovels and spades, we already talked about. But in terms of that, it has paid me back tenfold, say it that way, in terms of being able to do this job better and do every safety job that I've ever had better by building bridges. If you're trying to do that, you have that mindset when you get there, you're right. If you're looking to ride them up and you're power tripping, you're going to get shot down more quickly than I can possibly explain to you. Make sense? Okay? So that's one of the things. You need to give positive feedback as well as negative feedback. And it's hard to do. Give you a quick example, final example here. Texas Instruments. A bunch of guys were contracted to build a radar unit. And this is straight out of your book. Company's dismay, somebody underbid. Ooh, big time problem. And they get below what the actual cost was. That's a bad move, and that's why they have construction classes and entire there's construction management majors across the country. One of the classes is construction estimation. When you estimate your safety bill, estimate it right. And usually I'll estimate it high or low. I'll estimate it way high. Sky high, baby! Because if I don't estimate it sky high, what will they do? They'll either cut it. Well, you need what? You need you're going to see on another job. I'll give you an example. You on the internet, you'll have a different one. But in terms of the job I'm going to show you here, I estimated right around 10 grand. And the job was actually going to cost about 5 to 6 grand. But I went in there and they said, no problem. Because they had no problem. They won't fix it. Go do whatever safety stuff you got to do. One of the worst places that I worked for, one of the worst electrical subcontractors I worked for. Here's your money. Go do whatever you need to. You have that much money. It'll cut you off if you get past it. Okay. But I have plenty of money to go back and get what I need or I forgot or whatever I need. And if I still end up with money left over, what we say I do? I think they have a law. Spitballing here, I teach legal, but they cuff you when you do that. It's called embezzlement, and I don't know, we don't keep it. So in terms of doing that, what I do is I go through my budget and I end up and I've got $2,300 left out of that 10 grand. Let's go shopping. I will absolutely buy harnesses, hard hats, paint for the floor. I will buy everything, signage, safety related. Earplugs, I'll get them in the gross, man. If we needed more full body harnesses and I didn't have enough of that size, I will go back and buy 10 or 15 of them to make sure that I have plenty next time. They may never get used on my watch, but I will use up every bit of the budget that I have, because if I don't, what will they do? Then they'll cut it. Some of the safety students, like I tell my system students, say, oh, you're lying, Doctor. You're lying. Yeah, I am a little bit. Welcome to the real world. Sorry. But you know what I'm doing? Does the end justify the means? It does, man. Because I am protecting my people in the final equation. You need a triple XL harness, and I got enough money to get you one this time. I'm going to do that. And it's on hand. Okay? So a lot of people do that. But they underbid the job. To rectify that, get back to Texas Instruments, supervisor knew of the problem, called the workers together. This takes guts. Okay? He explained the problem. Even bigger guts it takes to do that. Okay? Problem is, we sucked and we underbid it. He explained the dilemma in order to ask for their help. The original time when they did the bid was 138 hours to construct the radar. So we're back in construction here. By using the workers' suggestions, what are they doing with the workers? Listening to them. Okay? They were able to assemble the time, cut the assembly time to at first 100, then to 86. Look, 32 hours. They went from 138 to 32-hour assembly. Because the workers were involved and committed, their self-worth and egos were on the line. Their egos were on the line, because if we told you to do it, who knows their job best? Workers do. So if we told you to do it and we screwed it up, it's on us. And hell, they're going to fire everybody. We're not going to have another job. Okay? It proved to be a real motivator to solving their problems. Did they need and value something in this little story? And they found what it was. And the Texas Instruments TI guy, just on that one site, I'm sure TI has bad sites just like Kiewit has bad sites, okay? But in this one example, he had the guts to say, look, we screwed up. Fall on your sword is what they say sometimes in the business. We don't know what we're doing in terms of getting this thing done, obviously. We way overestimated. Come help us. Because if we don't get this job, they're not going to ask us to do any more. You think they asked him to build more when they cut it from 138 down to 32? Yeah. What else can you do? Where else can you work? And maybe they got the B word. Bonus. Okay, as a result of that. That's one quick story. All right, flip open to chapter 4. I'll get you started on it and you can finish it up. For those of you on the internet, we'll do a little bit. Because that is on your test. There it is.
So nothing about chapter 14 on the test?
Yes, chapter 4 is on the test. I won't get through all of it lecture-wise for those of you on the internet and for those of you here. But we'll start on it, okay? And it's basically construction safety and health programs, and it's a little short. A lot of this stuff we've talked about. We talked about it in the film. 7 questions to ask, multiple choice on your test when you're in the construction safety and health program. Again, on the internet, you get a different test. It's not necessarily going to be multiple choice. What's your policy? And the way I read these folks is what I tell them every time when I get to this chapter. These are interview questions. Are they not? Yes or no?
Yes.
Could I ask them, what's the safety and health goal of your company? Is that a legitimate interview question? Usually, if they're a good company, they're telling you that before you have the chance to ask. I have to say this, bragging on the university, and I don't do it often enough, but this is the only job in the whole time that I've been working since I was 15 in the field. This is the only job where they answered way over half of, I had like 2 pages of questions when I came up to interview for this job back in '01. And I said, here's what I'm going to ask. And they had answered all but like 4 or 5 of them before I had a chance to ask them. As a matter of fact, the vice president of the university at the time, long time ago, awesome guy named Dr. Snowden came up to me and he said, this is what we have to offer, so please just give us a chance. Man, nobody's ever asked me, that motivate me to maybe want to check them out a little more and work for them? Yeah, it did. I'd already talked to the department. I'd really made my decision by the time I got, because in academics it's an all-day interview. Long story. But I already made my decision, and he's asking me to give him a chance. Just give it a chance. Even the guy in the department who hired me, who was not Wayne, it was another guy named Robert Simonek. He hired me, great guy. And he said, just give it a few years. Here I am, 18 years later. Think it worked out? Yeah. Because they answered ahead of time, and they were fully forthcoming in what they did. Look at that, for that stuff in the same time when you have an interview. Same when you do a job interview. Look for that information to come to you. Okay? Have those questions ready. Who's responsible? Is it just me? Or do I get help? No, I'm it. Okay. Then if I know that going in, maybe I can work with you, maybe I can't because you're offering me too big of a job. Make sense? Okay? And I can't do it by myself. Supervisor and employee held accountable. How do you hold them accountable? Do you write them up? What's your fall protection policy? That question shouldn't upset them if you're in a construction company. We have 100% tile. And then you get there and it ain't like that. That's called a bait and switch. Okay? But those are 7 questions that you should ask them. You gotta ask, what are the rules for this type of construction? Honestly, this one right here, yeah, you can ask them. And they'll tell you that if you've never done it before. And it's a totally legitimate question if you've never done it before. But I would actually study this one and have it ready for the interview before I got there. If you're building bridges, we had Austin Bridge and Road coming in. Have they come in yet? They haven't come. No, they're coming in for the career fair, I think, or something. Anyway, you need to know what they do. And there are different, and those rules are in your construction book. A derrick is not an oil derrick. It's not in construction. It's a crane that's on a barge. Okay? That's a whole different thing. Boy, you better know that before you go asking them questions at Austin Bridge and Road, Drew. Yeah, because they may be building a bridge over water. Make sense? Okay? That's why you got to know this stuff. What are the consequences of not following the rules? That's a nice way of getting at the stop work authority issue without saying those 2 words. Make sense? Okay? And that's why we've said that before. What are the procedures addressing safety and health? That's what they're going to tell you. That's a program. It's got to be in writing. And it's got to be like that. Again, multiple choice. 8 actions that a construction contractor should establish to have a good safety program In other words, translation, if you flip this to the interview situation, here is what you're looking for when they're taking you on the job site tour in construction or in general industry. And here is what you need to do the job right. If they're not going to provide you one of these things, you begin to ask them questions in the interview phase about this. Make sense? Okay? What kind of budget I got? Well, it depends on what you're doing. Ooh, that's kind of freaky. Okay? I had one student who went out working for a company that shall remain nameless. $100,000 safety budget per year. What's that tell you about the company that they were working for? Are they committed? I wouldn't say they're cheap. I'd say that that's a good start. Would you? I'd say that's a really good start because the plant that this person was working at was anywhere from 1,500 to 1,700 employees. So that's a lot of money and a lot of budgetary resources. Can I have an intern? Yeah, that's what part of the budgetary resources are for. We know you can't do this job by yourself. You can't be awake 48 hours straight every day. So you need help. Make sense? Okay? How does this training happen? In terms of horror stories, to tell you a quick horror story. I had one student who went to work for a company and they had 2 plants in different locations. What they gave her to train with, and I'm not making this up, and this is way after DVDs came out, was a TV VCR combo about 15 inches big so she could fit it in the car, the company car, and then drive between places as she trained. And they gave her a bunch of old safety videos that the last safety pro had bought. How committed to safety were they? Not. Not at all. You're not even giving me the tools that I need to do the job. And I'm going to tell you straight up, at a minimum, I don't care what other people say. I mean, you've seen Toolbox Talks, that's when I'm in construction. You're going to have to learn how to use PowerPoint. You're going to have to learn how to write a good presentation and talk in front of people. I'll told everybody since the beginning, I'll tell you right now, if you can't speak in front of people, get up and go change your major because 80% to 60% of what you do in this job is speaking in front of people. If you're afraid, I'm so afraid I'm going to talk in front of people, then you don't need to be here. Because if I get up in front of 12 angry welders who don't want to be listening to me, what do they want to be doing? Welding. Even though they're getting paid, they don't care. They don't want to listen to safety Nazi. They want to be out there in the field. That's why a lot of people take this job, because you're not a desk jockey. You're out there running the field. You're out there with the free people who are doing the work. You're with the guys. You're with the girls. You're actually training them. They don't want to be on the train. I want the training short, sweet, to the point, and I want it to be qualified. I don't want it to be just filling in the blank, checking the box. I want it to teach you something. Because, and I think we've said this before, true or false, the quality of training I give you can make the difference between you going home with the day or not. True. Okay? So, got to train them. How do I make sure my supervisors are trained? Where's your written safety and health program? The film, we talked about that. I'm not going to beat that one to death. Hold the supervisors even responsible, especially if they're going to rip the safety glasses off their head when you turn around. Respond to complaints, and that doesn't mean blow them off and never talk them. Even if you can't do anything about it, you respond to the complaint, and you begin to say, look, man, I tried. We talked about the Civis program, Craft Voice in Safety with Kiewit, right? I talked about that. And I'd walk into that yard, I told you that first time I ever walked into a job site. And they had a big whiteboard, bigger than that desk I've ever seen. Writing magic marker. You asked, we did. Is that being truthful? Yeah. You asked for this. We did this, we didn't do this, we couldn't do this. And here's why. And then the worker has the option of either telling that designated Civis personnel, the one in the blue vest that I was showing you, to go ask the question as to why this wasn't done. But it takes a lot of heat off of the people who are working for you, and the safety pro gets the message back to the employees. And then they try to find another solution if the first solution didn't work. That's how that site worked. Make sense? Good place to work, okay? And they don't pay me to say that. I'm telling you, it's just a good place to work. Respond to complaints and investigate accidents, and obviously you're going to be doing audits. We'll talk about that more later. I'm not going to talk about the safety. Well, I guess I could. This is a survey they did. They found if you have no written safety program, you're going to have 100%, 106% more accidents. Okay? No, I'm sorry, wait. No written safety program compared, yeah, that's right. Compared to those who have a written one, you have 106%. On down here, the ones that I find didn't document anything. Do you think you need to document stuff? What 3 letters does it satisfy? Exactly. If you don't document, you have 122% more accidents than anybody else because you don't know what you just did. A lot of people say, well, why do you stay on history? Why do you say all these war stories so much? Because those, you've heard the saying before, those who don't pay attention to history are doomed to repeat it. This is why I tell them gruesome, graphic, disgusting safety stories, and I'll show you in here and on the internet some gruesome, graphic, disgusting safety pictures. And I don't do it to titillate, I don't do it to excite you. Oh, that's gross, that's awesome, like Walking Dead, although I am a fan. Okay, what I do to tell you is that's somebody's mom or dad who ain't coming home tonight. That's what it really looks like. And now you may have to be the one to deliver that message to the family. Now does that have teeth? Now does it sink in? Make sense? Okay. Last thing they say on here. If top management doesn't actively promote safety, here's safety guy, there's all the money, go do whatever you want. That's not supporting safety. That's not promoting it. That's throwing money at the problem. And that's what those guys did with me. I don't want to hear nothing about it. Here's your money. Take care of it. Then you have a chance, they say, of having 470% more accidents. So what that tells you, what's the takeaway from this big survey right here, Dr. Nick? What do you mean? What are you driving at? What are you getting at? If the company can't answer any of these questions successfully, you need to move on. Keep interviewing and find somebody else who does all of these things. Okay? But that's a survey that they did, and they put it in there. Let's see, we did that. Yeah. Okay. 3 basic reasons, multiple choice, real quick, trying to get you as much chapter 4 as I can, that you have a comprehensive safety program. First one, I'm not even going to read it. Who's first on my list? The workers, period. Doesn't matter what class, doesn't matter what I'm talking about. They are the reason we're in this business. If you're in this business to be a multimillionaire, you may get there. I ain't going to lie to you. But if that's what you got your eyes on, that prize, you got them on the wrong prize, to quote Dr. King. Okay? You need to have it on the people. Pink, purple, yellow, blue, I don't care what color you are. You deserve the same protection on a job site, true? Wherever you're at. And so in terms of doing that, that's humanitarian. Safe workplaces is an obligation to society. That's what your authors say. The second one is what I hear most about. The second one is what keeps companies in fear. The second one is why those people just got out of my legislation, my legal liability class, which we call it last hour. How can I get sued, Dr. Nick? This is the call I get more frequently, unfortunately, than this one. Okay? Why are you in this business? Well, can they sue us if I do this? Man, anybody can sue anybody over anything in the United States of America. True or false? It's true. Okay? So, the legal obligation, the government, the charge of the employer with responsibility of safe working conditions, that's there. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of students worry about. Sometimes you can get paralyzed by that liability. Okay? If you understand, remember in the movie, let me go back to the film real quick. Remember in the film he said, now, part of the reason we got staying here, guys, is because we want to do 100% tie-off and to stay safe. All right? You guys got it? All right. Now sign this piece of paper, guys. Let's go to work. Oh, what did he do? What was he trying to do when he said sign that piece of paper? Well, I heard it what?
Document.
That's right. I'm documenting. Not necessarily going to keep me out of court. Can I still get sued?
Yeah.
But I have paper to back me up. Make sense? And I can probably pull at least one witness to say what we did that toolbox over. Toolbox talk over, okay, in terms of that stuff. In terms of what we trained on. And we can talk about how we can protect ourselves from lawsuits, which we've already done. Okay, so let's, like I'm saying, this chapter's kind of a review, guys, of what we're talking about. Safe working conditions and adequate supervision of work practices. Did you watch them while they were doing what they're doing? If you got a big operation going on, you need to watch it. We'll talk about that later as we go on forward a little more. Okay? Third reason. Money, 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 money. Right? Okay? It's economic. Now let me ask you this. Is part of my job protecting the company's assets?
Yes.
Yes. Protecting their buildings, protecting their product. In a construction company's case, protecting all the stuff they use to do construction. Your backhoes, your buildings that you have, that your job trailers. Is that part of my responsibility? Yeah, it is. What about protecting them against terrorism or possible terrorist acts? Yeah, it is. In the ultimate, if you look at it, you reverse all that stuff, it's actually protecting people. If you want to dig down deep, and it goes back to putting them on number one. But economic is the third reason. Okay, and the biggest reasons that we have construction safety, prevention, true, false, don't let me screw you up on the test, okay? Prevention, if I stop, let me just clear this up real quick for you. If I stop the accident from happening in the first place, does it cost me anything? No, okay? I could get sued over it. Anybody sue anybody or anything, but the chances go down dramatically because it never happened. True? Okay? So prevention costs less than accidents. Now the reason they phrase it like that is because if I got to get my attorney involved to prove that that did not happen, then I got to pay it. But it's a hell of a lot less money than if the accident actually happened and I've got to go do a surgical repair on this guy's back and it's going to cost us $50, $60 grand to get him out of the hospital and then he's permanently partially disabled. Make sense? Okay, and legal liability folks know what I'm talking about when I talk about that. The direct cost is represented by these things, multiple choice, medical care, compensation, how much you pay. Indirect is 4 to 10 times, and I hate this in legal liability too because it's so important. The indirect cost, what you don't see, that they had an awesome lawyer that totally killed your company in court. 10 times the direct cost must be calculated as well as the loss of wages to the employee and the reflection of those losses on the entire community. You don't build the bridge, you don't build the building, you don't build the factory that Ford is going to be making cars in. Have you just put a whole bunch of people out of job? Yes, you have. Okay? So that's part of our reason of being here. Yes, there are economic reasons. Okay? Now, multiple choice again. The 3 conditions that got to be met to ensure that you have a good safety program. And again, this is a review for you guys. Like you say, getting into it, you're going to see. Management leadership. And they say that in the film. They said that in the only film I've showed you in class so far. One of the hardest things about getting safety accomplished on a website is getting management to buy into the process. You remember that line? Something similar to that in the film? Okay? To establish safe working conditions. This is why I'm trying to get this. Okay? Makes sense. Safe work habits of all employees. Even the guy who knows that I'm the safety Nazi. All of them. Got to try to win them all over. I can use family. I can use what they need or value. And I want to find that out as we go through. I can use a CIVIS program, Craft, Voice, and Safety, to try to get them to be on board with what I'm saying. Make sense? Okay? And that's not a big one, so we'll move on. Get a few more before we get gone. One more. How do I build a construction company safety and health program? There's 5 things. First of all, and I'm going to buzz through these, but they're in there. Rules and regs, and that means not just OSHA, because, what's it say? Read it.
100% compliant doesn't mean 100%
100% compliance does not mean 100% safe, baby. And you're going to learn that when you get out there, okay? If you're doing pavement like my brother-in-law does for a living in Kentucky, and you have asphalt that's hot, what can it do to you? So you got to have some kind of regulation in your program about asphalt. True? Okay, then we have a problem. So not just what the state has, but what do you have in your company? How do we communicate? You see how this is a review. Okay? One of the most important things in a war is communication. The responsibility for communication, those concepts, rests with management. That's true. Don't let me mess you up on the test. True or false? Okay. A line of communication got to be established at constantly furnishing employees with new information and safe information. How did we do that when I was working? We didn't have a toolbox like they told you in the film every Monday. We didn't have a toolbox talk every Monday. We had it when?
Every day.
Every day. If you're working weekends because you got to make up time, we do it on a weekend. 5:45 and I'm in there and we're doing it. Make sense? Okay? Alright, that's all we got time for, guys. The rest of it, if you got any questions, let me know. Fill out your reviews on the internet, same thing.